Insights with Terri Ep.164, a weekly look through the eyes of predictive astrologer Terri Ep.164. Here's Terri.
Hello, everybody. This is Terri, and you're listening to Insights with Terri Ep.164. Thank you for joining me for the week of April the 7th through the 14th, 2024. I know all of you are probably so tired of listening to about the eclipse that's coming. I'm not going to beat you about the head and the shoulders with it. There certainly is enough information on there that you don't need me talking about it. It will occur on the 8th of this week, and I'm sure that you all know that. I'm thinking they're talking in this area, which is Essex County, where I'm broadcasting from. It's supposed to be around 2 o'clock, and I think pretty well 98% total here in this area. So I hope you have some nice plans and enjoy it, and maybe spend 1 minute of your time thinking about how things can get confusing and get so dark, and we just can't see our way out of it. And then as we give it a little bit of time and we maybe sit still for a few minutes, the light comes back on and we're shown the way. So if we can maybe just think of that in a collective conscious way, asking for many people that have lost their way, to maybe spend that moment to try to find a better way of handling things than the way we seem to be doing more often than not right now. So it's just something to think about. Now, we still have the sun sign in Aries, which is a fire sign, and I've talked about it the last couple of podcasts. And in Mercury, the planet of the mind, how we think, how we communicate, that's in Aries at 2, and that is going retrograde. That started retrograde on the 1st, April Fools, and is still continuing and will be until the 25th of this month. Now, I talked about that last week too, so if you'd like to go to the website, www.terriworld.com, that Charlie O'Brien kindly did for us. He's archived 4 or 5 of the previous podcast, just so that if you need to catch up or just kind of go over it again and see. So Mercury retrograde, just in a nutshell, for the people that missed it, it's not a bad thing necessarily. It can be very challenging if we don't understand it. So Mercury, the planet of the mind, how we think, process, how we move through this intellectual part of our life, is going backwards. So we process a little slower. It's much easier to make mistakes. Other people make mistakes. I prepared for it. My dog food, I get a pallet of dog food at a time. I ordered it a week early because Mercury retrograde, it was going to be delivered. And sure enough, it didn't show up. They said it was in Quebec, Montreal. Couldn't get it out. It was a little bit of a process to get my dog food out, and then the last call was, it's still there, we can't seem to locate it. And I go out the back door and the truck's in the driveway with my dog food. But I had just finished talking to the woman, and as far as she was concerned, it was still in Montreal. That is a typical Mercury retrograde. There's no reasoning with it. So because I ordered a little early, it didn't cause too much of a problem for me. I was down to the wire, but it didn't cause a problem. And then in the end, everything came, it worked really well because I was just headed out to the agility field with a client. I wouldn't have been here when they delivered it. They were supposed to call, and they didn't. So everything worked out perfectly, but just not the way we thought. So Murphy's Law, if we just give it a moment, breathe, and try to figure out how best to attack this, it won't be as bad as we think. Be so very careful, though, kids, on the road, because when we make a mistake with a huge vehicle, it can really be a nightmare, as you know. So people are just prone to making mistakes right now. With our minds in the position that they're in. So I don't want somebody coming at me because they whoopsed through a red light or didn't see the stop light, or I don't know, put their foot on the gas instead of the brake. So just drive. Don't do the back roads. I'm there. Leave me alone. But just go with caution. Just pretend everybody's out to get you, and you'll be just fine. Now, my bird just flew in. I thought I had put her in a cage, and I'm hoping she'll be quiet while we do this. I really am. So you can all say a collective conscious prayer for me that she'll just keep her mouth shut for a minute. Venus, the planet of attraction, which might have attracted this bird to my shoulder, is also in Aries. So that's a lot of fire signs. Bang, 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 bang. And fire is fire. It's hot. It's impulsive. It jumps. It doesn't think. So it's an energy field that can really put us in some positions that can be challenging if we don't think it through, and the likelihood of us not thinking it through, because impulse is huge right now, is very likely. So I'm going to talk about that as well. And Mars, the planet of our drive, our passion, that's the planet that I would look, what would a person lay their life on the line for? That is still in Pisces. Pisces is a water sign, so we have water and fire, and I've talked about that the last few podcasts as well. We just have to be careful that we don't put our own water out and dry the stream up, or have the water douse the fire, and any energy that we had or any motivation that we had gets cooled off to the point that it's out. So we want to be using it like steam. Little bit of steam, little bit of fire, a little bit of water keeps us going pretty well. Now, in the beginning of the week, I'm looking at where the planets are. We may, if you're vulnerable in that area, have some neck issues. Vocal cords, your thyroid, your throat. I can already feel it happen. Some of my sensitive kids out there could feel it a few days before. So there may be a little bit more throat issues, voice issues. I can even hear my voice is a little bit lower than it normally is in my ears. Probably when I turn on the recording, I'll say, ew. But that's just the way it is. So if you do have issues in that area, be prepared for it. Do whatever it is that you can do to keep your throat soothed. If you have a thyroid gland issue, be prepared for that as well, to give you a little bit of grief. Then towards the end of the week, it can migrate into the shoulders, the hands, the arms, our bronchial tubes, and our lungs. So already preparing for that. Some of the Young Living Essential Oil RC, I'm breathing that in, keeping it handy so that every chance I get, I can just breathe that in and try to get to the lungs before the lungs get to me. So if you are weak in that area, try to be proactive. If you have shoulder issues, arm issues, hands issues, be prepared towards the end of the week. It may bring itself to your attention. Now, next week, I'm not going to talk about next week, but just moving into next week, some of our sensitive people, as I said, would feel a little bit ahead of time. There's going to be sensitivities, and those sensitivities, crying at commercials, feeling overwhelmed, feeling emotionally moody, up and down. That's going to be a big part of next week. And as I said, sensitive people can start feeling it now. So if you're around a sensitive person, or a person that's going through some difficulties, maybe we can just be a little bit more proactive and thoughtful and compassionate, and observe, what they're going through. Take it away from the focus being on ourselves and put it on them. Let them talk. Let them feel loved and needed and heard. Even our kids, I'm preparing for my dogs. I have quite a few dogs that are very sensitive dogs, like ridiculous. And I know that their feelings are going to get hurt easily. If another dog gets a little bit strong in the play, they could shut down. So I have to be already ahead of the game, watching them really, really closely to see if something's bothering them. How can I help them? How can I help them feel good? Maybe just quiet place for them to have their little doggy pillow away from the pack, or just extra scratches, or, come on up in the chair with me, lay in my lap for a little bit. Maybe have a cup of tea sitting in a chair and let everybody come and just love on them. And maybe we need to do this with our friends. That's probably why my little bird here, her name is Luna. She's a little white cockatiel. She was perfectly fine. I gave her a peanut. She loves her peanut. She likes to throw it and make a terrible mess for me. But she's usually pretty good about being involved with her peanut while I'm doing the recording. But she needs pets. So right now she's on my shoulder and I'm petting her little head and I'm rubbing her little feathers, and she's got her little baby eyes closed, and maybe that'll keep her quiet until I finish this podcast. But I know that she'll not want to spend much time in the cage. She's very seldom locked up. She has the freedom of the house, which is mostly my shoulder. She does fly, which makes me a little bit nervous in case I forget she's there and I go outside. So I'm trying to be really, really cautious and conscious of where she is. But she's a very affectionate being, but much, much more right now, feeling what's coming on next week. Now, we got a new moon coming on the 8th. That's our solar eclipse. The moon is in Aries, and that's Monday. So all that Aries, that fire, just, watch it, kids. Just a lot of fire. Watch your impulse. Watch maybe saying something that you didn't mean to, or shouting something out that should not be shouted out. Just keep an eye on yourself. And the number 2 is the number that came at us for this week. So number 2, combined with where the planets are right now, asks us to try to engage the quality of tolerance and kindness, to combine that energy that's coming next week, pull on it ahead of time, and that'll give us good intuition for some of our activities, some of the decisions that we have to make, and to try to cultivate in us for this week the opportunity to listen, as I said, to others. That's the number 2. To be patient and to learn the art of diplomacy, which is sadly lacking. Sometimes I do a indulgence and I watch YouTube, and I watch those, they call them Karens, acting up. And even a man can be called a Karen. I'm gobsmacked at how people have some people have a lack of complete self-control. I mean, complete lack of it. And what they do, I'm stunned. And if this wasn't photographed, I'd never believe that people could act this way. Not in a million. My mother would be furious with them. She would spank them on their face. So it just shows me how we need to cultivate, with this number 2 that's being given to us, the act of patience and the art of diplomacy. We do need to maybe bring that back. Now, with this impulse energy of Aries, normally I would say it does take courage to implement our plans, and oftentimes we might need that little bit of a push. But with this Aries energy, that'll push us. So we may be having the courage to implement the plans that we were thinking of, but we might leap before we think. So just be aware of the decisions or the impulse things that we're going to be jumping into. Relationships, friendships, and our emotional life should and will be very, very important to us this week with the solar eclipse, with that Pisces in Mars, that number 2. All of it is coming together to try to get us to focus on that, how important that is in our lives. Relationships, friendships, and our emotional life, not just our money, not our material possessions, which all, cause a scare, or a feeling of security, which isn't really all that common right now. They're also trying to offer us the ability to reconcile with people that we're in dispute with, and to be able to pull the tools together to successfully cooperate with others. That's what they want us to do with the number 2. Number 2 is an even number. It's compatible. It tries to get us to work together. The weakness of number 2, with where the planets are right now, is clinging to our material possessions, clinging to our fears, clinging to our anger, clinging to some behavior patterns that we shouldn't be clinging to, and being bothered, really, really bothered by small problems. Watch being too passive and giving in to circumstances and not trying to fix them or to do something. Hypersensitivity, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, towards the end of this week, working into next week, will be a thing, a real thing. So watch your friends, family for hypersensitivity. It's already starting to gather. And becoming distracted and nervous and not at peace. I'm seeing that with my dog. I've got one dog that just, honest to God, bricks are smarter than this dog. And he's an airhead, and I love him to death because he's so funny, because he does the silliest things. Him trying to concentrate is just astronomically impossible. And I'm noticing him even more airheady than he normally is. He has a really hard time to not be distracted. And gosh, I've worked with so many dogs, and I pride myself on being able to take dogs and animals that are easily distracted and teach them how to focus. But he's been a challenge, and this week more than ever. So it must be that 2 that's coming up with where the planets are. Now, I just wanted to bring something quickly to your attention, because I did pull some cards, and they did suggest really working on our health this week, being aware of it. What's our body trying to tell you? Is there any messages that our body is trying to give us? Really work on health, maybe changing our mind about certain things. They're going to give us the opportunity to be successful in health management. But they're saying that there's a lot of emotional pressure going to be put on us, where we may not make good decisions, and a lot of emotional pressure put on some relationships. So be cognizant of that. And all that Aries energy, as I said, that fire sign, fire can translate into anger, especially with the pressures that are on us at this time. So we may find it difficult to calm ourselves at feeling of anger without feeling an ability to express it. And so displays of anger might start popping up with friends, relatives, colleagues, peers, and those actions could lead to arguments, regretting the event instantly, but too late, horses out of the barn. So really, really try to look at that. And I'm seeing it with the dogs as they're playing. And normally my dogs, they know they're not allowed to fight. And there's a level of playing that I don't let them get to when it gets too much. But I'm noticing that now. Right now they're playing above that barrier. And they're starting to lose temper if I let them go. Grabbing onto an ear a little bit too hard, grabbing onto the scruff a little bit too hard. So I redirect them to the balls, to working in the agility field, to different things. Come on, let's go look for eggs. So anger and that boiling right at the surface could be there. Irritability. And if somebody else is feeling it, we need to be forgiving of that too, recognizing what somebody else is. I've noticed it a little bit in a couple of friends, how they correct maybe the words that you're using. I could feel it bubbling up in me when I was listening to somebody talk about protesting. I have my opinions, they have their opinions. They're not compatible at this time. And I really needed to keep my opinion to myself, because this wasn't going to go in a good direction. And it was hard to let this person continue. So I just pinched it off, not in a mean way, just, oh, you know what, I'm so sorry. Knock, 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 somebody's at the door. I just had to remove myself, because I didn't think I could stop the bubbling over on my side, and I could feel it on their side too. So, excuse me, just be aware of that irritability, and what tools do you have to calm yourself or to get through it. And it might just be walking away. Track your physical cues. Look at your muscle tension. Are you getting a headache? Is your head hurting? Is your heartbeat a little bit rapid? Is your stomach upset? These can be manifestations of our body not acknowledging the anger, but knowing that our body is a victim of anger, and it really can do a number on our body. So track that for yourself. I notice it if I'm feeling stressed by people, tension in my jaw. I can feel it. Grinding your teeth until they're flat, that's always a clue. Rolling your eyes out loud, that's a clue. Wanting to bitch slap somebody, or say, maybe slap them before you say duck. Just, those are real good clues, so you want to pay attention to them if you can. Watch silent anger. Silent anger can maybe diffuse a situation for one person, but for the other person, keeping those things inside of them while they're upset and not being able to express their emotions can really do a number on your body, your mind, and eventually it's going to come out sideways. I mean, think of a drawer. You can only put so much in a drawer until it starts spilling over. There's a limit, and that's what we're going to be coming up against. So some people, maybe to be aware of the anger, we're generating thoughts of what can I say to hurt that person emotionally. Sometimes it even expresses physically. So just be aware of what's going on in your mind. That's certainly unhealthy, trying to hurt somebody, and that's a clue too. We can experience trauma as children, so childhood trauma can also cause some anger issues, and maybe that's what the universe is trying to bring to our attention with the solar eclipse, with the new moon, new behaviors, new understandings about ourselves on the 8th, and all this Aries energy, to look back and say, what problems do I have in what area, and what leads me to frequent outbursts of extreme emotions? And that can include anger and rage. And was this a shock in early childhood, or did I stub my toe and just get mad? What do I need to know about myself and how I'm expressing this or not expressing this? And how do we turn it off? Some people withdraw. They physically and emotionally withdraw. We can't reach them anymore. Can't have a conversation. I don't want to talk about it. That's not healthy either. Maybe we shouldn't talk about it that moment so we don't kill each other. But maybe we need to just say, look, we're avoiding intimacy here for long periods of time. We're giving everybody the silent treatment. What are our needs? If we're doing that, what's our needs? And what is a cold rage? What is that? When people say this cold rage, that's expressing anger by turning things off. It's cold. And as I said, withdrawing emotionally, physically, that's a big tool that some people use. So maybe we need to be aware of it. Maybe the universe is offering us this opportunity to look at ourselves, look at our friends, look at our family, maybe help them, help ourselves. Even if we point it out, are you okay? Yes. Why? Well, you seem a little concerned about things, or I'm just feeling an energy from you. Now that can either turn them into a raving maniac, Godzilla killing Japan, or maybe it opens a door for an opportunity to talk and say, is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything that I can offer you, or do you want to talk to me? Let's go for a walk. Now, I believe in physical movement when we're talking about things that are angry or anger making. I get that from the animals. The animals show that to me. When they're in a war with themselves or other animals, they go right into physicality. So if I'm working with a dog that's aggressive, I will work him. We're going to be working. We're going to be doing some running. We're going to be doing some agility. We're going to work that anger off. Because if it stays pent up and I expect to sit and I expect that dog to be quiet, something's going to blow, especially if it's an aggressive dog and feeling anger right now, lunging at other dog, rah, 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 rah. If I think I'm going to make that dog sit and be quiet, I am sadly mistaken. And that's where exercise comes in. So maybe exercise might be a good thing for some of us in this next little bit. Might be something that we could look at. Getting an exercise program, looking on YouTube, getting some yoga moves, going for a walk, doing some squats, anything, vacuum, anything that expresses energy. On that note, good luck to everybody. We have some interesting challenges and we've got some really good possibilities in the next little bit. I would sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, like to thank Charlie O'Brien for all the work that he has done, putting us on Spotify podcasts, on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, and then he gives me the link from YouTube so I can put it on Facebook and you can listen to me drone. Lucky you. And Charlie, as I mentioned earlier, has also created the website www.terriworld.com, and he puts up the weekly podcast there as well. And he archives 4 or 5 of them in case you missed them or you just want to go back over them and take a look. So if you have any digital needs, don't be afraid to look up Charlie O'Brien, or you can contact me and I can get his number for you and how to contact him. Thanks again, Charlie. And thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this. That's your most valuable commodity. And thank you, Luna, for keeping your voice down to a dull roar and not interfering too much. Thanks to all of you. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Insights with Terri Coots. Visit Terri's website at terriworld.com. TERRI world.com.